gang, what's up? We're gonna get started in just a minute here. We're playing one more from Rooks G, once and for all. Let's go. What's up, y'all? Tonight I'm covering some wild, wacky stuff. I've got an extra bonus thrown in at the very beginning here. I'm gonna throw in for you on the waterfront. Meantime, let's kick it with Rooks G. Wait till some more of the gang gets in here for a Saturday night at the movies, and with some literature, and possibly some new stuff. What's up? What's up, Celeb Alert right there? What's up, Jethro? Daniel. Shouts out to Michael H. Member. Napoleon Wilson right there. Shouts out to everybody out there. Jason, of course. Love y'all. We'll be with you in just a minute. That's right, Moldy. He does cook. I'm gonna let him cook right here for a minute. Let him cook with some break beats. This is my guy right here. This is my guy. This is my dude. This is our dude. Let's let him cook for a minute. Shouts out to Jerry, because you guys don't know this. I'm going to let you in on a little secret here. I'm going to be hanging out with my boy Jerry in about a week. I'm so pumped. I'm so excited. Shouts out to Jerry out there. The best. One of the greatest. The wisest. The wisest. Jerry is the wisest. He's the Iceman. I love you so much. Can't wait to see Jerry. I'm gonna put plenty of pictures up of me and little Ewok, our friend right there. Jerry at Exposing Powerful Lies, my longtime friend there. All right, you guys, let's go. Tonight, we're going to talk about some wild things. I'm going to talk to you about my idea for a screenplay, which came to me this week, and I got to give a shout out to, to my friend Toby Harvard, because he really inspired me to do this. My friends Paul and Toby Harvard. Paul is a screenwriter in L.A., and Toby Harvard is a screenwriter in London, and he has he's put out a couple movies there, one of which was Bookworm, which came out last year. But this, they really inspired me, and a couple of things really, it was a couple of songs that I was listening to and some videos I saw this week, and I woke up from a dream and had this idea for a screenplay, and so I'm going to get into that. First, I want to talk about a couple of things. I'm going to talk about this book, The Zone of Interest by Martin Amis, which is the movie that was nominated for Best Picture last year at the Oscars before the Oscars this year, which I talked about in the last one, which were just horrible, as some people say. It was terrible. But the movie Zone of Interest, which I don't know if anybody here has seen it. I've watched it, so you don't have to, but is, of course, adapted from this book, which I'm going to talk about. And also, I saw the film Black Bag. These are kind of unrelated tonight. Tonight's not too, we don't have too much of a fluid theme going here tonight, other than war is kind of a theme. I suppose we could say war because they're all about that, including my screenplay that I'm going to set out to write just for fun. But, maybe something will come of it. Who knows? So that's the dream. So first, though, I want to start off by talking about a classic movie. I'm throwing this one in last minute. This is a classic movie, and I want to talk about it because it is one of the great films of all time, and hopefully people have seen this one. If they haven't, then maybe this will inspire you to go see it. Usually I don't make film recommendations per se, but if I have to make a film recommendation, I know Jerry knows this one. If I have to make a film recommendation, then this would be one of the ones, and it's considered one of the greatest movies of all time. And I really want to talk about it because it provides a contrast against the way that movies are made now, because they are so bad. Movies, there's just not anything great right now. There have been a couple great things. Of course, Bookworm, which I talked about, was great. That was a great movie. And there's a couple of other ones that have been solid, but in terms of the spirit of movie making, this movie is one of the greats, and that movie is On the Waterfront. On the Waterfront by Elia Kazan, which won Best Picture in 1954. It was nominated for 12 Oscars. It also stars Marlon Brando in his first of two Best Actor wins. It has Carl Malden. Carl Malden did not win for this. He was also nominated for 1951's A Streetcar Named Desire, which also was directed by Elia Kazan and also stars Marlon Brando. And Eva Marie Saint, who I think is still alive. She was, last time I checked, I think she's still alive. She's over 100 years old. She won for Best Actress. And Lee J. Cobb is in the movie. I could have been a contender. That's right. Lee J. Cobb is in the film. And actually, Rod Steiger, Lee J. Cobb, and Carl Malden were all nominated for Best Supporting Actor. This is a fantastic movie. This is the way that movies used to be made and the way that movies still could be made. I learned that the movie was made for a $900,000 budget. It made $9 million. Apart from all that, it's a great film because of the human story and the human drama with metaphysical overtones. It is a Christian movie. You may have forgotten that if you haven't seen it in a while, but it certainly is a Christian movie, and it is about first of all, it's one of the great mob movies, and it's one of the great boxing movies. There are a lot of great movies. About boxers, and one of my favorite of those is Daniel Day-Lewis's The Boxer, underrated Daniel Day-Lewis performance. But many of the movies that come out about boxers are actually they are in a way derivative, or they take from this movie. Raging Bull takes a lot from this movie, and do you know that the "I could have been a contender" monologue is essentially not the same, but it certainly gives some a pedigree, some provenance to the great monologue in Raging Bull, and also of all things, if you remember, Boogie Nights has the same sort of monologue. There are a lot of it's become a sort of trope in films to have a monologue in a mirror. This movie is the Marlon Brando character, Terry Malloy, doesn't give the monologue in a mirror, but he's holding up a mirror to himself from society, from the mob, a kind of inverted mirror with that, and how he's been ratting on himself the whole time. He says he's been a canary on himself, and he is holding up a mirror with his brother, played by Rod Steiger. Now, Rod Steiger is one of the greatest, most underrated actors. He won. Rod Steiger, I think, won Best Actor for In the Heat of the Night. He was in The Heat of the Night, certainly, with Sidney Poitier. They call me Mr. Tibbs. But Rod Steiger is fantastic. See, I knew Jerry would like this. Rod Steiger is one of the... Rod Steiger. I walked into the movie theater. I was in Dallas in 1963 watching a movie. And they told me Rod Steiger is in there. I don't know. He's a pretty good guy. He was in the actor's studio. Rod Steiger, when you watch this film, you go, oh, my gosh, what are these guys? They're both at the actor's studio. They're both method actors. And they're playing brothers, of course. And this movie has one of the greatest brother castings where first of all, you absolutely believe that Terry Malloy is a boxer. You believe that Marlon Brando is a boxer in the movie, and you believe that Rod Steiger is his brother. You have to kind of, suspend your suspension of disbelief to realize that. So what happens in On the Waterfront? Basically, it's a story about a former boxer named Terry Malloy who is working the docks in New Jersey, and this is in the 50s, and the docks are controlled essentially by the mob, by the Longshoremen's Association, and the mob controls it, and Lee J. Cobb, the great Lee J. Cobb. If you ever, here's who Lee J. Cobb is. If you ever read Death of a Salesman in high school, the copy of the book that they usually give you has a picture of Lee J. Cobb on the cover playing Willie Loman, and Lee J. Cobb is just fantastic. Anyway, so they're controlling the docks, and the movie begins with Terry going to this apartment building, to a tenement, and yelling up for this guy to come outside, and he'll meet him on the roof, and he gets thrown off the roof, and he's unintentionally set him up for murder. And then Carl Malden plays a parish priest who comes in and he's trying to figure out what's happened here and why anybody won't talk about it and why everybody's turned their back. And of course, it's because the mob controls it, and there's omerta even amongst the dock workers. Well, even Marie Saint tells him that, he says, if you need me, you can come find me in the church. And she says, the church. And he realizes the next day that this is his church. It's a powerful moment in the movie. This is his church. The docks are his church. This is going to be his parish. And he holds true to his word. Well, anyway, what happens in the movie is Terry eventually is put under pressure by the commission to play the canary and to name names as far as who's controlling the docks and about the murder. And the reason that he essentially turns is because Lee J. Cobb sends out Terry's brother, played by Rod Steiger, to turn him and to say, if you're going to turn state's evidence or whatever, then he's going to set him up for a murder. And he realizes at the last moment what he's doing. And Marlon Brando has this great monologue and says, oh, wow, he says. And then basically he gets out of the car, and then Rod Steiger takes the fall essentially for Brando. The fall, right, from the building, but this time it's a fall, and they hang him up with a hook. And then Brando says, "I'm gonna take it out on their skulls," and he essentially he names names, and they all call him a canary, but he still shows up at work, and then he's the only one not allowed to work, and then eventually he goes down and confronts Lee J. Cobb, who's the boss, in their little mob shack, and he fights. And like a lot of great movies about fighters, and this one is we try not to get our morals or any kind of moral lessons from film. That's not where you get morals, but but movies do. They do provide they animate morals for us. They give us a good example of the way that we live and the way we shouldn't live, etc., through watching a sort of parallel story. And this one is as convoluted and complex as human drama it is or can be, and because you watch the movie and we don't want snitches. You don't like a snitch, but you realize in the movie that they've done nothing for him and they've been holding him back. And in fact, they've made Brando's character Terry Malloy take the fall. He took a fall during a boxing match where he could have been a contender, he says, and instead he's on a one-way ticket to Palookaville. He's a bum. Let's face it, he's a bum, he says. And so he stands up for himself, stands up for his people. He falls in love. He finds Eva Marie Saint, who is this kind of wayward character who is clearly her father's been providing for her whole life, but she has no mother. The father is about to get it, and she also needs a man. And what better man than Terry Malloy in the movie? I mean, he really is a kind of example of masculinity that a lot of people talk about this. A lot of our friends talk about this, and this is a great movie that's a great example of that. The movie is really about the struggle for what it means to have a job, what it means to provide, why you're doing it, and where your moral backbone comes from. And eventually you learn in the movie, one of the reasons why it's powerful is that you learn that the mob guys are actually the rats, because the way that they operate in the movie is always behind the scenes, always behind closed doors. They don't ever bring anything to light, and they're always gossiping and sending people to go out and snitch on each other. And so you find that they're actually the very thing that they're sort of railing against. One thing I thought about during this movie is that, when you consider the origins of the mob and the Meyer Lansky aspect and the way that the mob was set up through Lucky Luciano and through Meyer Lansky, the modern mob, what I kind of realized is that a lot of the what they call shylocking and a lot of the rat-like behavior and snitching and stuff is it actually infects the world in which they live, to the point where people's families and their morality begins to be questioned, and they sort of fall into this place where there's a scene where Carl Malden says to one of the characters that Lee J. Cobb's character would strike you and snitch and cry out as he's striking you. And I thought that's extremely relevant. And so it makes sense that Terry Malloy also fights for something to believe in. And eventually we learn that one of the things that turns him is when he's sent into the church and he's supposed to spy on this meeting where they're going to learn about, they're basically going to church, and Carl Malden sort of starts off heavy, and he's telling them who killed the guy, right? It's a pretty heavy way to start. But what happens is that the mob really screws it up because they send a bunch of their heavies to break the windows of the church and to go and beat up people as they're coming out of church. Now that can't stand. That can't happen. That can't stand. And so if that's going to happen, then of course Terry Malloy sees, wait a minute, and he actually slugs one of the guys at one point, I think he's one of the actors in The Godfather later on, and he slugs him because when Carl Malden he goes into the dock and one of the other guys is killed, he starts preaching to them, and he gives a very powerful monologue about how he says down here, if you think that Christ isn't with you down here, you're wrong. Christ is with you in the depths of this ship. He's with you on the docks. He's with you when your back is breaking. He's with you every time somebody lies to you or every time somebody kills someone here. He sees that. And the mob guys start throwing potatoes and cans at him. And the movie takes on a kind of allegorical framework because, and it actually reverses this is why it's brilliant. It reverses the very thing that happens throughout the movie that seems really repugnant, which is that nobody in the movie will stand up against the bad guys and nobody will stand up for anybody else throughout the whole movie. Nobody will stand up. Nobody will speak up. Nobody will stand up. And people can get killed right in front of them and they won't do anything about it because they're afraid of the bad guys. Well, so the movie is telling you, stand up for yourself, stand up for each other, and you have to give. You're supposed to give. You're supposed to serve. And sometimes you gotta take it on the chin for somebody else, especially the people that you work with or the people that you love. This one's on the waterfront, yeah. And then at the end of the movie, it switches. What happens is Brando goes down and he beats the hell out of Lee J. Cobb. I mean, he just fucks. Honestly, excuse my language, folks, but he fucks him up. And then Lee J. Cobb has to call in his 6 or 7 other guys to come in and beat down Brando because he can't. This guy can't stand up for himself. And Brando even tells him, "You're nothing without those heaters, without that trigger finger, without all of your accoutrement." That's not how he says it in the movie, but without all of his shit, he can't go toe to toe with him because he's of course Brando's a boxer, and you're waiting the whole movie for the violence to explode for him to stand up for himself, and then at the end of the movie, this is why it's a great film and why Rocky takes a lot from this. A lot of these movies, the lesson that we can learn from this is you're not always gonna win. We want to win, we want to always win, but sometimes we're gonna get slugged. Sometimes we're gonna get punched in the face, literally. Sometimes we're gonna take an L. But you win. The way you win is not by winning every fight. The way you win is by standing up and fighting again, or living another day, or standing up for yourself. And so the end of the film is Brando standing up and walking back into the factory to work, and it's an America that we still see now, but is something that's sort of supposed to be in our blood, which is work. You want to work. You don't want to take handouts. You want to work. People want to work. They want to provide for their families. They want to go and work in the factory, or they want to lay bricks, or they want whatever they're going to do. And however they're going to do it, they want to provide. Brando doesn't have a family at this point. He's got his brother who's now dead, but he clearly wants, Eva Marie's saying, he tells her, "You love me." And he busts in the door and he forcibly kisses her, and she kisses him. And they clearly are going to get married at the end of the movie and have kids, that's great. That's great. But what happens is that the whole time, Carl Malden's character has been basically telling everybody, stand up for each other, support each other. And at the end of the movie, it becomes the opposite. So Brando walks into the factory like he's walking up to Calvary, and all the people are on either side of him. He's sort of walking this gauntlet, and he tells them, don't lay a hand on him. Don't help him. Don't help him. He's got to do it himself. And he stands up and walks like a man back into work, and he's faced his tempter, he's faced the accusers, he's faced the bad guys, and he walks in, and he can be proud of himself, and everybody else follows him, and there's a nice resolution at the end of the film. It's really fantastic. It's a pretty incredibly complex movie for something so simply done, and I think that we forget how much mob movies and how much the American cinema really takes from this movie in general. Brando, for one, is at his peak right here. He had a really good run in the 50s. Of course, in the 60s, Brando didn't do much. He kind of fell off, and he was in a bunch of kind of stinkers. He was in that movie Candy with Richard Burton, which is a hilarious movie where Richard Burton plays a kind of Dylan Thomas character. But in the 50s, he started off with Streetcar Named Desire. He'd been in the Broadway version of that. Of course, they replaced Jessica Tandy with Vivian Lee. Vivian Lee, of course, plays Blanche Dubois in that film. And what was crazy about that was that Laurence Olivier did not want her to take the role. Laurence Olivier was married to Vivian Lee at the time. He did not want her to take it because he thought it would break her mentally, and it did. And she, I've got the vapors. She's, what we got here in Louisiana is called the Napoleonic Code, which says that whatever belongs to the wife heretofore us belongs to the husband. Ha ha! Ha ha! He says, in this movie, he gives one of the greatest, and On the Waterfront, he gives one of the greatest monologues, movie monologues of all time. I could have been Charlie, I could have been a contender. Well, which is what I am, a bum. I'm going to take it out on their skulls. He's great. Brando is great. He's such a great actor because, aside from the lore and what people think about great actors, and this is an example of an actual method actor. We've talked about how Daniel Day-Lewis is not a Stanislavski method actor. He's a classical actor. But this is one of the examples of where the guy actually is the thing. And apart from all that, none of that matters. What matters is the performance. The performance that Brando gives is so crazy because he has all of the qualities of the great movie actors that we've come to know over the years. I mean, take like a Benicio del Toro or something he's just unusual to look at, and he's so interesting, if you cross this line, right? Well, Brando has every aspect of that. He's so charismatic. He's electric from the very beginning. You believe that he is the character. He's this hulking, athletic guy who is not so bright. He can't count to 10 at the beginning of the movie. He's punch drunk, and yet the important things in life break through to him. God, morality, love, standing up for himself, giving something back to his community. All these things sort of break through to him, and they have to be, in a way, punched into him. But he's just, the way that he can sit there in the scene with the swing, where he's talking to Eva Marie Saint after he's just rescued her, and he's trying to figure out who she is, letting her figure out who he is. And she has these gloves, and he puts on he takes the gloves, and he puts on one of her gloves, and he's just standing there with one of her gloves on, and it's just such an odd, unique thing that he does. It's like he's clothing himself in this sort of the clothes of innocence. Remember how in Macbeth, I've talked about this in my analysis, my multiple analyses of Macbeth. One of the motifs in Macbeth is, why do you dress me in borrowed robes? And there's a constant motif of clothing that is ill-fitting throughout the play. Well, that becomes a common symbol in literature and film, and it certainly breaks through in On the Waterfront. So that's On the Waterfront, and that sort of, I'd say the sort of a loose-fitting theme for all this is, beginning with On the Waterfront, is war, because he is at war. He's at war with the mob in the film, but he's really at war with himself and his own beliefs, or at least at war with his conscience. What that becomes also a motif in On the Waterfront, because they constantly are mentioning your conscience. Let your conscience tell you what to do. And he says that's all only ever got me in trouble. Now, what I say is, give it to the next guy before I can give it back to you. You got to live. You got to survive. And so all of that goes away because he actually doesn't give it to Lee J. Cobb before he could give it to him, because he does confront him and he fights him, but it becomes a kind of metaphorical opposite in the film. So that's On the Waterfront. Let's talk about the next film. Hey, everybody, thank you for being here tonight on this Saturday Night the Movies analysis. And if you want to reach out, you can grab a membership. Really appreciate that. If you do that, it helps me. You can also send support. You can super chat. I'll read your questions and comments. Ask me anything. Ask me anything about, I've got a spur level knowledge of books and movies. So ask me questions about movies, about acting, about literature, or whatever you want to do. Or just you can say nothing. Let's go to our next film. This is a new one that just came out. Cheers to you out there. This is called Black Bag. Ooh, I don't know. What a stinker. I mean, okay, here's my analysis of Black Bag, which is the best movie of 2017. Whatever year this is. I mean, Steven Soderbergh has fallen off, and I hate to say that because he really has made some great films in the past. This movie it's in the same universe as Haywire, or what's the one that he made about the girl who kills Channing Tatum, and then there's also the one about the I don't know. There's a bunch of shit, as Norm says. Norm's review of this movie would be, it went from shit to fucking shit. Excuse my language. Yeah, the movie Black Bag, which just came out, and which I don't know if anybody else has seen, I would say you can skip this one. I've seen it, so you don't have to see it. So Michael Fassbender, who I guess is in the CIA. I mean, everything he's done for the past, I don't know how many films, has just been CIA, and that's fine, I guess. You know, that's cool, as the dude would say. That's cool. No, he's in that show called CIA. What's it called? The company. It's called The Company Man or whatever. It's got Jeffrey Wright in it. I saw 2 episodes. It's actually not bad. But Fassbender, whom I like Fassbender. I don't like that he played Bobby Sands, but he was So Michael Fassbender plays James Angleton essentially in Black Bag, and he's married to Cate Blanchett, whom I don't really want to give my real feelings about Cate Blanchett here on a stream because I feel like they might not be good. But I'll just say she has become a handsome woman. Okay. There's something up with Cate Blanchett. Cate Blanchett used to be so, I don't know what it is. I'll do a Jiminy Glick. I don't know. Why are you in this movie? Cate Blanchett, I think where she turned was, it wasn't Lord of the Rings, because she plays Cubby in The Life Aquatic, and she's very good, and she's a soft character in that, and very sweet. Maybe it was the Woody Allen film that she did, the Jasmine movie. That's probably where she turned. Something changed with Cate Blanchett. I guess maybe she went to the Marinka party or something and ate her own head. But whatever it is, it's not good. She plays the wife of Michael Fassbender in this film, and they are CIA people who was the movie. Wait. No, they're not CIA. It's MI6. Whatever. He's a CIA. He's James Angleton in MI6. Okay, whatever. And it is very English. As soon as I heard it, I said, "There's the score by David Holmes." David Holmes is from Belfast, so that's good. But Fassbender essentially is playing an MI6 guy who is a counter-intel. I guess he's a counter-intel spy catcher, and he is given a list by, I think it's Gustav Skarsgård. I think that's him. I don't know. It's somebody. Anyway, he goes down into this cool club in London, and he is given a list on paper. Interesting to see paper in a movie. You never see pieces of paper in movies anymore, with 5 names on it, and these are leaks that supposedly are leaking. We don't know what yet. One of the names is his wife, so he goes back home to his very extravagant movie. And when we were watching the movie, I said, these people are all thieves. How could he have a house like this? And that sort of, turns out to be true at the end of the film, of course. Well, the first half of the movie is basically a stage play, which is one of the problems with films right now. And I think this is carried over, just as a little tangent here, I think this is carried over from the Karanka era where, studios were shut down except for Tom Cruise, who saved Hollywood. But look, on location sets seem to be still rare, and I think that Hollywood is kind of afraid to venture out into places. I don't know what the deal is, But the first half of the movie is a stage play, and it's a lot like Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor in the film version of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf by Edward Albee. Great play, but we find that we've come to dinner with Michael Fassbender, who is another thing about the film is that he seems to be the wife role in the movie, like Cate Blanchett kind of takes on the husband role. It's not only that he's doing most of the cooking for her, which is fine. That's fine because he obviously knows how to cook in the movie. He's a good cook, but he's also walking behind her, picking up her clothes off the floor, and just little things in the film give you a kind of femininity, I suppose, to his character in this. He's got cool looking glasses, which kind of start to look like a soy jack glasses if it goes a little further. But he's got James Angleton glasses on. He's James Angleton in the movie, basically. And so he's supposed to find out who the leak is, and he doses them at dinner. He gives them some sort of chloral hydrate or I don't know, whatever he gives them. They all start speaking very loosely, and the characters are annoying. And one of the characters is this younger girl who is a coder and who is like particularly kind of crass at dinner. She doesn't know how to cuss. She's one of these people like, you're at a nice dinner. Here's a lesson, okay, for people. This is not advice, but here's a little life lesson. Okay, when you're at a nice dinner where someone has set a table and it's in the evening and you're in someone's home, you want to try to avoid salty language. Okay, that just seems to go without saying, but I think a lot of people don't understand that. Now there's a time and a place, and this can be a funny thing, but you generally want to avoid saying things like, "Oh fuck." That's a little crass. It's a little out of place, especially if it's with people that you work with. Well, anyway, so the point of the movie is that he's got to suss out who the spy is, and he finds that spoiler, hate saying that, he has basically been set up by his wife, who has also been set up in a convoluted wilderness of mirrors to figure out who has passed a Stuxnet type virus on to some Russians or Ukrainians. They don't really specify, I think, because that's going to do a new Chernobyl. And they need to find out where the leak is. And eventually we see these, I guess they're Russians, in a car. And there's a kamikaze drone that kind of that blows them up, because we find out that Pierce Brosnan, who is the director, is the guy who's really running the thing. It's reminiscent of Haywire a little bit. And we find that really kind of everybody is in this, but one of them, who is an unlikable character, is the guy who was trying to serve the greater good he was going to melt down a nuclear facility and kill 10,000 people in order to end the war in the East. And the only reason it gets stopped really is because Naomi Harris's character is a Christian, and Michael Fassbender says, you misunderestimated the depth of her Christian belief, of her religious beliefs, and her fervor for this, and she did not want you to go ahead and kill 10,000 people. So that's one of the things. It is interesting because it brings out in the film this kind of Dick Cheney morality versus actual morality, which is that, when okay, I better not go too far without that metaphor. When the thing is headed into the things, if you're the guy who presses the button and launches the Hellfire missile at the plane at the vehicle full of people, women and children included, then now you're the guy who did it. It's no longer the other guys. Now you're the one who killed them. And the greater good in this means you're still gonna kill a lot of people. And so it's an interesting sort of moral conundrum, I suppose, in the movie. But suffice it to say that by the end of the film, the problem is, and here's my analysis of the problem with movie making right now is that we don't care about the characters. They're all pretty vapid. They're completely surface level. There's not an Soderbergh did something I think noble here, which is he tried to spare the action sequences that constantly overwhelm films with more of a human dialogue. But it ends up with characters who are too cold and too devoid of any kind of conscience for us to care about. So we also get nothing really about intelligence, and we get nothing that we usually get from these types of films about anything revelatory. And I think that, my sort of takeaway with this is that my life would have been completely the same if I had not seen the film. And that's saying something for me, because probably like, I don't know, like you guys, probably. I mean, this is the way I feel about movies. When I walk out of a movie, many times I've taken on the one of the characters, and I'll speak like the character for like a while. So, for instance, when I finished watching On the Waterfront, I was going, "I'm Lee J. Cobb, and you can't do this," for like 30 minutes. But this movie, I simply walked out and I said, "I'm Michael Fassbender, and I'm autistic." I mean, that's the whole movie. So anyway, that's Black Bag. There's not enough really to cover with that. Another extra, let me throw this one in, a little extra here. I did read the Donnie Darko. I'm not going to cover Donnie Darko again because I already covered it twice. But I did read the Donnie Darko book, and I did get a couple things from this film, from the book. The most interesting thing I got from it is that I said in my analysis that Middlesex, Virginia, where the movie is set, seems to be a stand-in for Richmond, where I'm from, and that I'm vindicated in that. The whole thing, Richard Kelly talks about it in the interviews, in a published interview in the book beforehand, and Richard Kelly is from Midlothian, Virginia, which is a kind of suburb of Richmond, so that stands in for Middlesex. There is also a Middlesex, Virginia, which is a county, and I lived there for a year, so there's also a Middlesex. But aside from any sort of symbolic meaning of the term Middlesex or any kind of middle ground, I was interested in the fact that it is vindicated. It is Richmond, Virginia. And the really interesting thing is that Grandma Death in the movie, she's the old lady who writes the philosophy of time travel, lives on Old Gun Road. And when I went off to school, but when I came back for college, my family lived on Old Gun Road. So there you go. So I got sort of a personal connection more to the film. I also learned a couple of things about screenwriting and Hollywood from his interviews at the beginning of the book. I think that one of the things is that the book contains the shooting script, and I learned that the things that are edited and cut out from the shooting script that don't even end up in the director's cut of the film, that's a good example of how collaboration is also important despite a singular artistic vision when making a film. And I think this is, again, provides a kind of lesson, I think, to anyone, especially any man working in a job or an industry where you where you don't just rely on other people, but you have other people with minds and lives of their own. And you have to listen to other people, especially other people who know better than you or who are older or who have something of experience to tell you. Now, I'm not reading these books for any kind of life lesson or advice, but I did get that out of it. Oftentimes we can find things, seeking you will find, but also sometimes you find things by what they call in the movie industry, happy accidents. Have you ever heard that before? Happy accident? It was a happy accident, which is like where Brando puts on the glove and they say, well, that wasn't scripted, but let's leave it. You know what? That's unique. Let's leave it in there. Let's leave that in there. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. This time we're going to have Brando put on the glove and we're going to focus on it's that sort of thing. But I kind of walked away from, first of all, I love Jake Gyllenhaal. And I like all Jake Gyllenhaal movies. He's great. He's also a 1980 baby like me. But I thought that they could have done without the foreword from Jake Gyllenhaal. It adds absolutely nothing to the film. And in fact, it's a great example if you read the little foreword to his introduction to Donnie Darko. It's a great example of why you have actors act and writers write, and why you can say a lot of things without saying anything. You can also the important lesson, I think, in one of the important things in filmmaking and especially in literature is, like I've said this many times, to show versus tell. It's important to show you in the finished work instead of to tell you what's happening. This is, again, something that happens in this. Think about it like this. In creative writing classes, one of the best things that a person can do in a creative writing class is to read their work and to be silenced afterwards. The other people discuss the work, and what they glean from your work is what is shown. The minute that you have to explain why I did this character, why I did that character, why I wrote this, it's no good. I think it's the same for probably a pitch meeting or a business meeting. It's, say what you will about Elon. I know a lot of people don't like Elon. A lot of people like Elon and whatever. One thing that you say what you will about Elon. One of the things that I've heard that he said is that when it comes to meetings and problems, it's better to have a person come up with a solution. This seems so obvious, but it seems better to have a person come up with devise a solution to a problem, because the solution will contain the entire problem. But not only will it be explaining the problem, but how it gets fixed, instead of having people who just constantly complain all the time. Now, I do realize the irony that I'm sitting here complaining about a movie, but I'm not really doing that, because I appreciate Jake Gyllenhaal's words and that he took the time to write it. And as an American, I will fight, even to the death, to defend his right to express himself. Okay, that kind of escalated. But no, I think it's I think people should watch Donnie Darko, because it is what it is, and it ain't what it ain't, as my friend Maddie says. No, but Donnie Darko is one of the great films, and what I got from the screenplay is that the time travel aspect of Donnie seems to be pushed. If he was pushing anything, that is the meaning of the movie through the screenplay, which thankfully does not really come out as the only thing in the film. Jake Gyllenhaal later did that with Source Code. What's his name? David Bowie's son, who made that. Did I cover Source Code? I didn't cover that. I covered Moon with Sam Rockwell, but Source Code kind of has that. He's essentially a time traveler, but it's a sort of more of a 12 Monkeys / The Abyss idea. But there's a lot more that comes out of the movie instead of that. Okay. Now let's get on to Zone of Interest before I talk to you about my screenplay. So, Zone of Interest, the book by Martin Amis, it's an interesting book. I won't say it's a great book. Martin Amis I learned about through reading about J.G. Ballard. Reading about J.G. Ballard, I learned about Martin Amis, who has passed away now, but he was a postmodern novelist. And I think that I'm kind of conflicted on this book, because it has many of the elements of the things that I think make for a compelling story. The book is a lot different from the movie. So the book is about a guy named Paul Dahl, who is an SS commandant of a concentration camp, and we don't know which one it is, and the name Hotler is specifically avoided throughout the text, and I think it kind of works. So what he's doing here is he's giving a kind of a triptych of human portraits and portraiture through the war, which is something we rarely get in films and movies and books. We rarely get that. We are constantly told that these people were human beings. they were not monsters, they were human beings, but then the way they're portrayed is as monsters and not as human beings. So we're not really given the other side of the fact that legit, like Nick Rochefort is great because he talks about how when he's looking at art or when he's thinking of ideas for skits, he thinks in terms of logistics. And I think that's a good way to think. He thinks, okay, but if this is a character, like what did he like how'd they get the car there and how long did it take and how long did they far did they drive and what are the gas prices? And this isn't thinking in terms of motivation for a character. It's thinking logistically about factual things in human life. And I think that you have to get that before you get to before you get to the truth of of a situation or the truth of a character or the truth of a story. You have to think about things in a kind of factual manner because if logic goes out the window, then form and content have to work together to produce meaning. And if logic goes out the window, then we have to have illogical themes where there has to be something that's surreal or missing. There has to be there has to be something that is psychologically damaged or dissociative or something in there. And so the book attempts to do that. We have this character Paul Dahl, who's a kind of is it Rudolph? Is it I forget who it is. I mix up the two Hesses. This isn't this is the commandant of Auschwitz, that place. Not the Hess that flew to Scotland to meet up with Aleister Crowley. And Paul Dahl has the hots for somebody else's wife, and essentially they are going about the business of running the SS, and then they survive they get through the war, and there is a kind of cold, illogical and surreal outlook on the way that the Reich will be run after the war because they have not come to terms with the fact that there will be an unconditional surrender. Now, the great thing about the book is that there are a number of different styles that take place in it, and there are a number of different passages which I think convey what I've talked about many times, which is this kind of, in the book, I think it's a kind of Ted Hughesian terrible beauty. So the opening paragraph of the book says, I was no stranger to the flash of lightning. Well, right away, we would read into that. The flash of lightning would be the double sig runes of the SS. I was no stranger to the thunderbolt. Enviably experienced in these matters, I was no stranger to the cloudburst, and then the sunshine and the rainbow. She was coming back from the old town with her two daughters, and they were already well within the zone of interest. Up ahead, waiting to receive them, stretched an avenue, almost a colonnade of maples, their branches and lobed leaves interlocking overhead. A late afternoon in midsummer, with minutely glinting midges, my notebook lay open on a tree stump, and the breeze was flicking inquisitively through its pages. Tall, broad, and full, and yet light of foot, in a crenellated white ankle-length dress and a cream-colored straw hat with a black band. The language sets you into the diaphanous, euphonous language of the beauty of nature. And one thing that does, and this is conveyed throughout the book, is it conveys a kind of pantheon of nature that is juxtaposed against the gray, cold steel and the smoke and the choking smoke and the factories that we read into the story because we know where the setting is. So instead, we have this thing that's the opposite. And it's not just the opposite, but it sets it that way because if these are human beings, and then we have to realize what's the motivation of the whole war in the first place. And I think that this is really kind of this seems more obvious in the times that we live in now. I'm not making any apologies or arguing for that thing in the mid 20th century that occurred, but I will say that every authoritarian regime and every dictatorial thing has one thing in common, and it is that it seeks to set forth a society where people with families, wives and families, can go to a place in safety and not get their head stomped in at the gas station. It sets a theme for a place where people can go to church and people can worship and people can carry on with life and they can go out in the woods and they can get on the water and they can go on vacation and everybody has a like-minded there's a like-minded love and appreciation for whatever the society is or the thing that they have in common, and that's given that to them. That's every authoritarian regime I can think of, and it can be Asiatic, it can be European, it can be South American, it can be American, it can be any of those things. But if it's, let's say it's an Asiatic culture, then it seems on the outside, of course, like it may be xenophobic or maybe any of those things, but it has a fluid and constant. That seems to be that kind of contradicts itself. It seems to be something that's fluid within, but constant. In other words, it keeps on moving, and yet it is constant for the people around. Look at for example, the way that the 1950s is depicted, and the way that it really was. In many ways, I mean, I know this through my own family, and I know this probably through many of y'all's families, that, you look at picture albums and you look at, and I'm saying aside from any kind of ideological whatever bullshit, the thing is that, like when I think of my grandfather, have I talked about this? I don't know. When I think of my grandfather, and I have his war diaries, when I think of the fact that my grandfather was in a war and he was 19 years old and he got shot through the ear by the Luftwaffe and he shot down a Messerschmitt 109 and they declared him dead, and he still made it back to base and still went back up again, and there were 80 million people that died in the thing that he was in. And if that had been 1 inch to the left, I wouldn't be here. My family wouldn't be here. Nobody, none of us would be here. And he spent his life working hard so that he could provide for us, so that my memory of him is that he was the best man I ever knew. And he was all kindness and love and giving, and he gave everything of himself in every way. So that's what human beings are, and that's what human life is. And I think that we all sort of wish for a world where that could be possible. And we, of course, live in a fallen world where we're up against other people who want the same, but it conflicts with our thing and all that stuff, all those things. But to tie back into this book, because this is a different thing. To tie back into this group, what we end up with in Zone of Interest is we see how things get warped, especially if you have people who are concerned with worshiping a human being. Many times, this can turn into something warped and decadent and depraved in its own right. And there are a bunch of great passages in here. It's weird because in my own book of poems, Runes, which includes personae in the Third Reich, one of the things that I read in a book on Klaus Barbie is the bauble on the end of his whip. And that actually occurs in the book because when Paul Dahl is with this woman, the dog whip that they use is described as a coiled viper. And this becomes something sort of highly sexualized in the book, but also deeply perverted and almost paganistic. There's an entire chapter here that has a kind of, the language of the book kind of takes on a Rambodian prose poem sheen to it. And that is because the fragmentary nature of the war outside of the camp and the way that orders are getting handed down gets mixed in and dissociates the people from the movement at large and from their own selves, especially the more they become insular. Let's see. Let me find you one other passage in here. Yeah. Afraid to die, but not afraid to kill. I see it in the set of your lips. You've got murder in your mouth. Such people have their uses. I'll leave you. Work well for Germany. I watched him go, listing slightly, curious that drunkenness, at least at first, is page 81 of the book, makes Dahl more fluent in thought and speech. Geheim Misstrager, a bearer of secrets. Secrets? What secrets? The whole country stops the nose at them. The snake that lives in Dahl's whip is a viper, perhaps, or a mamba, or a puff adder. As for the snakes that live in Dahl's fire, they are pythons, boa constrictors, anacondas, every last one of them, ravenously trying to get hold of something solid in the night sky. And let's see, where's page 198? There's a great passage here. Yeah. Fret not, Sonder, I'll tell you who to kill. And then, let's see, finally. Yeah, page 20C. Hold on. That night, over the black endlessness of the Eurasian plain, the sky held on to its indigo and violet till very late, the color of a bruise beneath a fingernail. That's Ted Hughes, basically. That's basically Ted Hughes. That's extremely violent, and there's a kind of sheen of beauty that occurs in this violence, kind of like a Hugo Boss uniform. So that is Zone of Interest, the book. Now, the film is completely different. The film is by Jonathan Glazer, who's one of these directors from London. What's up with these directors from London? Jonathan Glazer. No, Jonathan Glazer made the greatest ad of all time. Everybody should watch the Guinness. Go watch the Guinness surfing ad, the Jonathan Glazer Guinness ad from 1998. It is the greatest ad of all time, and it is a better film in 2 minutes than most films are. Also, of course, Under the Skin, the Jonathan Glazer, the crazily hypnotic black goo movie, Under the Skin, with a pretty fantastic soundtrack. And that stars ScarJo. But this is Zone of Interest. Now, Zone of Interest, the film, is probably it's not frightening. It's not a frightening movie, but I'll say that the way the movie looks, the way the movie runs, it's probably a more horrifying horror movie than most horror movies. And the reason it's horrifying is because of it's because of what is not in the film, and it's the auditory soundtrack, the auditory sensation that you get in the film. First of all, it has a high gloss. It's in it looks like Ultra HD 8K, and the movie is about Hess and his family at Awitz going about their lives, going about their daily lives, and they are in the backyard. He's got a family. The son is playing with toys. The guards come over for cocktail parties and birthday, and they ride horses in the woods. And there's not really a narrative. I mean, there's not really a thing that they're doing other than that he gets a transfer to another place. His wife doesn't want him to go. He gets contracts for bigger crematoriums, we'll say. And then eventually he goes off, and the movie goes from it transfers from the heat of summer to the cold of Berlin wintertime. But what the movie is, why it's great, is because it's not just an art house film. It's an A24 movie, and it does the thing that every A24 movie does, which is make a certain person out to be a bad guy. But besides that, the movie is strangely hypnotic and engrossing, and it really does, I think, sort of suck you in. And what you really watch the movie for is what you're listening to on the other side of the wall, because the family is sitting there talking, and you hear gunshots, you hear screams, you hear dogs barking, you hear, you find shoes in the woods and all this stuff, and it somehow doesn't manage. It's not a Lindler's Schist type of movie. I'll say it's not that. It's there is not anything in the movie that makes you go, oh, but you need the lessons from this. You need the political lessons. You're just watching the thing on the screen. Yeah, Kristen says, just watch the Guinness ad. Spectacular. Yes, it's fantastic. Hey, you know what? Go to that Guinness ad and put in the comments, Bazed Lit Analyzer sent you. Why not? I don't know. Sure. Yeah, I mean, do it. Later, of course, not now, but afterwards. Stay here forever. No. Okay. I'm such a dork. No, but so yeah, exactly, Michael H. Well, look, I warned you it's A24, so you know what it's going to be. But it actually is different from A24 movies because it doesn't have that. They all have that stupid sound in there, and they all have this kind of thing. A24 movies are the way they are because there are good ones. I mean, I think that there are well done and striking films that are within that, of course. Otherwise, they wouldn't be what they are. It's just the volume of stuff and the overt lessons that we're supposed to get from the movies. But the most, I think, the craziest part of this film, the part that is really striking, is the movie goes. There are a couple scenes where the movie goes into an infrared vision, and there is this sound that occurs. It's this. Thank you, Kristen. It's this sound that the soundtrack plays, and it's like I'm not going to imitate it. It's an all-encompassing THX. It sounds like. Here's what it sounds like. It sounds like in parts of the movie that literally hell opens up and we hear the yawning gulf of voices from the abyss in one singular sound. It sounds like that. It's a low, ultra low frequency maw, and it occurs with an infrared camera vision, and it's pretty fucking sweet, dude. I mean, I would say watch the movie just for that, or watch clips just for that one thing, because that's pretty cool. Now, let's move on. Let's move on from Zone of Interest, because there's not much more to say about that. And I've already also I've discussed it before. Let's talk about something completely different. So, I'm going to give you my idea for a screenplay, okay? Here we go. You ready? Idea for a screenplay. There's a guy. No. Okay, so, and this is something I'm talking about this seriously because I am going to work on this. I'm going to get it done. I'll say I'm going to try to finish this before the end of the summer, and maybe this will become a thing. Who knows? But, you can let me know what you think. So, I got this, and I haven't written a word of it yet, so I can talk about it. It sounds lame to talk about something before I've done it, but tell me what you think of this. And also I'm doing the thing where I'm telling you what it is, but because I don't have a product yet, I'm going to tell you what it's about. So here's how it works. Okay, so the movie opens up, and we see a landscape, and it is icy. It's an icy landscape, but it's sort of black, blue, gray, and icy. And the camera focuses, it comes out, and we go from seeing this landscape to a single eye. This is an eye. It's an icy eye. And the eye is then looking through a scope. It's a sniper scope. And we hear the soundtrack, and the song you're hearing is Crossfades So Far Away. Okay, bear with me here. So the song's opening up, and then when it gets to the part at the beginning where the guy says, so far away, when it says so far away, the music cuts, and this character says, "Not far enough," and he. So while the music's playing, he's throwing around in the chamber. He's cocking the gun. So far away, not far enough, and he takes a shot. Okay? So the movie is called Generation. And the idea for the movie is that it is a pro-war movie. The movie is pro-war. Every movie is, especially a war movie, is an anti-war movie. Every movie has the interpersonal drama that ends up being the real war instead of the war itself. Now, this isn't a propaganda movie. It's a movie where the conflict in the movie is the war. Does that make sense? That is the movie. So we have, where do I get my ideas from? I get them. Hey, where do you get your ideas from? I don't know, Adam. Were you out shopping for apartments? I don't know. They just occur in the old skull there. Okay, multi. So it's a pro-war movie, and it's incredibly violent, and it is set in what's called near future, and it's one word, near future. And the main character looks like Johnny Resnick in the Goo Goo Dolls performance on Good Morning America or whatever. For what's the I forget the Goo Goo Dolls song. I don't know. Whatever about the Goo Goo Dolls. I'm just saying that that's what he looks like. And so the guy they're at a forward operating base. The movie is set in Greenland. And this is it's in Greenland after they have become a United States colony. After they become a United States colony, and at this point, they're fighting for independence. And these guys are the American forces. And Greenland is icy gray and black. They're all wearing, their camo is sort of a new camo. It's like black, green, gray. Yeah, I agree. Gin Blossom's better than Goo Goo Dolls, of course. But that's what the character looks like. And the guy, when he's walking around, he's got no shirt on, and the main character has a tattoo right here of twin pillars with Eden behind it and the angel with the flaming sword standing at the gates of Eden. So we see that we're in the fallen world and that Eden is beyond where his heart is. But because this is in near future, there's no internet. The internet's gone, and there's no drone war, but there is still remnant of technology. And one of the things that they have is that the flames on the sword are like a GIF. They're animated. So there's an animated anthropomorphic tattoo art where, for instance, if another character has like a chopper on the back and he's got rotors, then the rotor blades are spinning, like they're spinning. It's like a GIF. It's like a computer GIF, but on the skin. And hold on, what's that song? What's the song? God, why can't I find it? What's the damn Goo Goo Doll song, you guys? I can't find it. Anyway, whatever. So what we learned through the movie is that the characters have they've got Walkmans and they've got tapes, or they've got any kind of music and they've got like headphones, and the music in the movie is like nu metal, and it's all crossfade, Deftones, etc. But it would be done by that would be one of the songs in the film, but it would be done by other like newer artists that are on our side, right? It would be like, I don't know. You'd probably, I can't explain that one yet. But anyway, the point of the movie is that it's not a chaotic movie about nothing. It's a movie about extreme violence, and the payoff is that we see, this is a twist, but there got to be some way to keep the audience, engaged throughout the rest of the film. And one of the things is that Greenland at this point is used or has become a colony through the decadence of this country, a colony for Jeff Stein McEffrey types. So you wonder in the film why the war is the conflict, and we don't have to worry about we don't have to worry about the characters, the main characters, having conflicts about should we fight, this war is unjust, all that type of shit. They're totally for it. They're absolutely for it. And the payoff is that the people that are running the independence movement are creeps. They're creepers. It's like battalions of creeps who've banded together for independence to have this as their own personal Jeff Stein McEffrey colony. And so that's why we have the characters motivated through the way that they do. And it's called Generation. So I don't know. We'll see where it goes. I'll see where it goes from there. But the way that I came up with this was because if you guys see, okay, so one of the things is when I was watching when you watch Woodstock 99, and I can't remember the name of the song, when you watch Woodstock 99 and you see Limp Bizkit performing, and they're performing break stuff, what I took away from that performance was that there's a sea of people, and they're on the stage, and immediately afterwards everything burns down. And what I took from that was that I imagined when Woodstock 99 was live, that Dick Cheney was watching the performance and said, "This is our war. We've got our war." Because the 90s the 90s were so good. The Cold War was over. We had, there was the war in Kosovo, and there was, there were a bunch of, and there's fake flags that happened, and there's all sorts of stuff happening. But the economy was good, and people were happy. And the reason that grunge and all this stuff came out was because there's no real exterior war, so the interior war starts to take shape, especially in people's lives. So all of the anger and all the frustration that occurred at Woodstock 99 was sort of a result of that. And so the empires know that peace breeds war because they need an outlet for all of the fighting age males to take out their aggression on something else outside. So when that occurred, you look at the people in the audience, and I'm watching it, and I go, all of these people fought in the war on terror, all of them. And that's the way it looks. You watch it, and you like the people like surfing on top of the 2x4s and tearing down sound towers and burning cars. You look at that and you go, oh, this guy definitely was a Marine after this, or this guy definitely was in Fallujah. It just looks like that. So that's the type of characters that would be in my movie. And the other thing is this. Have you guys ever seen, oh my God, now I can't think of it. What is the other music video that I watched where the girl's crying? What's the one with, Three Doors Down. Have you guys ever seen the music video for Three Doors? What's the Three Doors Down song? God, I can't remember any songs tonight. Three Doors Down, whom I never liked, but I have a point with this. Three Doors Down. Here Without You. Okay, if you watch the performance of Three Doors Down, yeah, Kristen, but if you watch, I just happened upon this video, watch the video for Three Doors Down live in Houston 2004. Here Without You. Okay, the first of all, the audience is the sweatiest audience I've ever seen, and this is a time capsule. This is a screenshot of the way that the 2000s was, the way the whole era was, because there's not a cell phone in sight, all that stuff. There's big lighters being thrown up, and you're watching this, and the camera cuts down to this one girl. She's the crying girl, and you watch this girl, and she's so into this song. It's the most intense, pure, melancholic but joyful look I've ever seen in a concert. And the camera keeps going back to her because she's weeping. This girl is weeping. And we look into it and you're like, you don't know if she's weeping because she's into the singer or she loves the song or it's the band or because her boyfriend is in Tora Bora or whatever it is, but it sort of matches the entire era. And I don't care about the band. I don't care about any of that stuff. I'm just talking about this song. And you're right. It was a different time. And you watch it and you say, how can anybody be this into, it's a totally different time. You're watching this and you're going, how could anybody be this into anything? How could they care about something this much? Because nowadays the sort of status quo is to not care about anything. Everybody's so black-pilled, and it is what it is. But she's watching this thing, and you're going, this girl cares so much about this song. And so that's sort of, I don't know, that struck me somewhere in my deep subconscious where subconscious, my unconscious mind, I guess, where I was watching this and I thought, what if there were people like this? What if there are the other side of this? What if I want to see the dudes who are fighting the thing, and it's total aggression. It's total, the war is the conflict. So anyway, that's my screenplay. So I don't know. We'll see what comes of it. So anyway, that's about it. The other movie I want to talk about coming up is going to be, I'll probably do this on the members, is I want to do an analysis of Blazing Saddles. And Blazing Saddles is probably the perfect comedy. And I'm going to do an analysis on why it's the perfect comedy and how the timing is so perfect in it and what you take away from the writing of the film. It's always annoying to do an analysis of a comedy because it takes away the very thing the movie runs on. So I don't tend to do many analyses of of comedic things because the best way to experience this is to watch the film, of course. But we need to do a breakdown of that because there are so few comedies made. A comedy is so much more difficult to make than a drama because drama is sort of the capital and the currency of art. And comedy is something that is so fleeting and can be so temporary, and it doesn't age well. It tends to be of the moment. Blazing Saddles, partly through the setting, partly through how it pushes the setting back to the 1800s, but it's also has a meta aspect to it built into the 1970s, is pretty perfect. It's a great parody, and the timing is so good in the movie because we see characters like Gene Wilder's character, who this is a good way to look at comedy, is that Gene Wilder's character is supported by this great stable of fantastic character actors. Mel Brooks' people. Mel Brooks plays multiple roles throughout the movie, but Gene Wilder is playing the role seriously, and the comedy comes from the beauty of the lines and how funny they are, and from the kind of the Shaggy Dog story that he tells. Little bastard shot me in the ass. The comedy plays from the sadness of his character in the movie and how it really is a perfect buddy cop movie. It ends up as a buddy cop movie. interestingly enough, I mean, we recently covered a couple of those and where they sort of came from, but like with French Connection. And this was made around the same time as French Connection, so it's really weird that it did that. But you look at Gene Wilder in the movie, and he really does shine. I mean, Gene Wilder really did. He really was sort of made for movies. Also trained at Bristol Old Vic Theater School, and just like Naomi Harris in Black Bag. So that's about all I got for tonight. If you want to support me, hit me up with a super chat. Let me take a look at some of these. At some, shouts out to my friend Baxter right there who says Kryptonite. Shouts out to Baxter right there. And let's look at some of these super chats. Jason sent me $10. Hey, thank you, Jason. Really appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. Sends me $10 on PayPal. Hey, shouts out to Buster who sends me $10 on Venmo. Really appreciate you, Buster. Thank you so much. Shouts out to Ethan Ethan, thank you so much. I mean, you really keep me going. Ethan sent me another $14 the other day, and I really appreciate you, man, on Cash App. Thank you so much. You really do keep me going. That really helps me out. You always hit me up right when I could use it most. So thank you so much. And I also want to give a very special shouts out to Michael who sent me $7.77 on PayPal. Thank you so much. I really want to give a special shout out to Kaiser out there. Kaiser Sose, who really did. I'm not going to read his email because he wrote me an email. I don't want to read the whole thing, but Kaiser Sose sent me a great email today, and it really is a model for how a well-written email can be sent. Communication with someone you don't know, and he it was very kind, very normal, and I mean that in the best way. Very normal, very kind, very balanced. Told me about some things that he's enjoyed from the channel, like with books, and he's a night driver out there, so I appreciate you. And also asked me for some book recommendations. And if you do that and you want book recommendations or movie recommendations, just hit me up on an email. madmaximalism with 2 X's at gmail.com. I'm happy to provide those, and I'm very thankful that people would take the time to write me at all or to ask for recommendations for books. And he had a very specific interest, and so thank you, Kaiser Sose. I really appreciate you out there. And I get a lot of communication from people. People write to me all the time. I get a lot of comments, and I really do appreciate it. Anybody who takes the time to smash that like or to support me in any way, of course, I really appreciate it because everybody's out there trying to make a buck. Everybody's out there trying to just keep on living and support their families and do all the things you do. So taking the time to watch me on this channel or to, say what's up or give a shout out to a stranger is pretty cool with me. Let's see if we have any super chats on there. And also, let's see. Where was I? There's not, again, shouts out to Michael H. for that $1.99 super chat. Thank you so much. I'm going to have a special thing coming up with Jamie, hopefully next week, you guys. And so I urge you to stay in tune. Yo, there's, Rachel says, check the Venmo, bro. Shouts out to, there she is. Thanks to Rachel so much right there. Hey, Rachel. Whoa, look at that. Whoa, big hitter. Shouts out to Rachel. Rachel sends me $100 on Venmo. Rachel, love you so much. You and Andy are fantastic. Really something special. So good. Rachel, thank you so much. Shouts out to Rachel Wilson, Based Homeschool Mom, Rachel for Patriarchy on Twitter. She is the best. Please buy, hey, listen, I'm going to do a plug. Please buy her book on Amazon. Roots of Occult Feminism. Please support Rachel. Of course, everybody here already does. Rachel is the mama of the group, so she's the one. She is the one. Did you know that? She has transcended. Rachel, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. That means a lot. So thank you so much. You guys, you can reach out. You can support me at any time. Again, I'm going to be meeting up with Big Dog Jerry, Exposing Powerful Lies. We're going to be hanging out sometime very soon. I'll put some pictures up so you guys can see. Listen, the internet it is great. I mean, it is great. It's great that I'm lucky to have a group of very special friends that I talk to all day long, every day for years. And in many cases, we become closer with people like that than we do with people in real life because we're grown-ups and we're working and we're doing all that stuff. So when we're with people, like-minded people, especially people who are wise, like especially to me, Jerry's been very good to me. And whenever I have there have been many times where I've had deep, deep questions or deep comments, and I don't. I'm not one who takes those things lightly. If I'm seeking out somebody for their opinion on something, then it means a lot. And so Jerry has been the one that I've reached out to on many occasions, and he is wise. He's a wise wizard. He always gives me great insight into things. So shouts out to Jerry. I really love him, man, and I can't wait to meet up with him. He's a good boy. That's Jerry from Rachel Wilson's YouTube channel. So, yeah, that's about all I got tonight. And, like I was saying, I'm going to be with Jamie. Hopefully next week we'll see. And I'm not going to give you the topic yet, but it's going to be something completely different than this and something that I think you guys are really going to enjoy. So check that out. That's going to be on her channel, and we're going to be doing something pretty fun, and I think people should tune in to hear, especially what she has to say and what I, just some dude, also has to say. So, you guys, go out there and enjoy your Saturday, enjoy your spring. It's springtime, baby. We're going hard into springtime. It'll be summer before you know it, and then it'll be fall again, and then it'll be Christmas. I always annoy people because, like, on the 25th of every month, I'll go, guess what? Today is only 7 months till Christmas. It's June, right? Oh, I can't wait for my presents. I want a telescope. Okay. I do want a telescope, though. Help me to get a telescope. I'm really getting into telescopes. I want to go out and look at Aldebaran. Okay, Aldebaran is what I'm really interested in right now. I think I told you that last time. All right, I'm looking for some movies to watch, something else good. But there's not much going on. I'll also be back with more literary analysis, of course, soon. I need to talk about Shakespeare on another stream coming up soon because of all the shenanigans going on with basically the unpersoning of Shakespeare from the Shakespeare Trust in England. I mean, I lived in England for 2 years. I lived in the UK for 5 years, and I hate to say that, but England is cooked in so many ways. They really got to change things, and this thing with Shakespeare is really fucking bad. It's very, very bad. So it's not, it's not. No, not that. No, not that. Yeah, and please don't. Yes, and don't drop the name of that thing in here, please. Oh my gosh. No, not that. It's a planet. It's the Aldebaran is. You want to know a lesson? When you look at Orion, when you look at the belt, if you go all the way to the right, there's a red dot, and that's Aldebaran. Anyway, whatever. Look it up. See what you think. So anyway, guys, love y'all. Matt Ryan right there. Matthew Ryan is. Are you Matt Ryan, my old friend from drama school who plays Constantine? Is that you, Matt Ryan? That's probably a different Matthew Ryan. Matt Ryan, my buddy, plays Constantine on the Constantine. They made a Constantine television show. He's from Wales, from Aberystwyth. But that's probably a different Matthew Ryan. Hey, shouts out to you too, Matthew Ryan. Listen, you guys, gotta go. Gotta run. I got a thing. So, love y'all. Peace. And let me play us out. What does that mean to play us out? All right, go. To play us out. To end the show? All right, go. And that'll do us. Yeah. Can't do it. We do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Fucking thing sucks. All right, here we go. Here is Rooks G with Crystal Magic, of course. Love you guys. Please help me get these numbers up. Help me get my streams up. Help me get on with some other people that you want to see. Please reach out to them. Tell them to come here. Reach out to Brett Easton Ellis and tell him to be a guest on this show, or Richard Kelly. I mean, why not? and give me some book recommendations if you want them. Reach out to me on Instagram. Make sure you follow me on Instagram. All that stuff. Love y'all. Here's Rooks G. Crystal Magic. Love y'all. Peace. Here we go. Thanks, Matt. Bye. See you. Love y'all. Have a good one. Check out my other streams. Check out the ones in the links. Reach out, hit me up anytime you want. Support me all you can. Thank you again, Rachel. Thank you everybody who super chatted, everybody who hit me up. Love y'all. Until next time, please get membership. I'll be on members. That's all we got. Was it worth it? Yeah, it's worth it if you're strong enough. Peace. Super chat. He said another great stream. Thank you so much, Matt. Really appreciate you, buddy. Thank you.